I made 5 decluttering mistakes that were quietly making my home more dangerous as I aged. And honestly, I had no idea I was making any of them. If your home feels heavy, overwhelming, or just impossible to get under control, stay with me. I'm going to walk you through every single one and the fixes that finally worked for me. Welcome back to Senior Decluttering Diaries. I am so glad you are here today. And if you are brand new here, welcome. This channel is made specifically for us, for people who have lived a full, rich life and now find themselves standing in a home full of memories, wondering where to even begin. You are in exactly the right place. Today, I am taking you through the 5 biggest decluttering mistakes I kept making. Mistakes that were costing me my peace of mind, my safety, and honestly, my energy. And I am going to give you the practical, compassionate fixes that changed everything for me. Before we get into it, if videos like this one are helpful to you, I want to ask you to hit that subscribe button right now and tap the bell so you never miss a new one. Mistake 1. Holding on to guilt and grief. The first mistake, and honestly the biggest one, was not about boxes or closets at all. It was about emotion. I was keeping things not out of love, but out of obligation, out of guilt, out of grief. And those are 3 very different reasons to hold on to something, but they all lead to the same result. A home that feels heavy and suffocating instead of warm and peaceful. Let me give you some examples from my own home. There was a vase my aunt gave me years ago. An expensive vase. A beautiful vase, technically. But I never liked it. Not once in 20 years did I look at that vase and feel joy. I felt obligation. I kept it because getting rid of it felt like a betrayal of her. Like if she ever came over and it was gone, I would have to explain myself. So it sat on a shelf, taking up space, quietly draining my energy every single time I walked past it. Then there were the dishes. A full set of china from my first marriage. That marriage ended decades ago. The dishes were perfectly good. But every time I opened that cabinet, I felt a weight I could not name. A complicated mix of grief and guilt and a younger version of myself I was not sure what to do with. So I just kept them, closed the cabinet, walked away. So here are the 2 things that finally worked for me. The first is what I call the stranger test. When I pick up something I am struggling with, I ask myself, would a complete stranger understand why I am keeping this? Or would they just see an object taking up space? That little mental shift helped me see my belongings more clearly, without all the emotional static clouding my judgment. The second is a release ritual. Before I let something go, I take a moment to honor it. I hold it, I say out loud, "Thank you for the memory you represent. I am releasing you so I can live more freely." For some things, I took a photograph first. The memory stays, the object goes. And I found that small ceremony transformed decluttering from a painful goodbye into a conscious, empowered choice. Mistake 2. The shuffle game. Mistake 2 is what I call the shuffle game. And if you have ever decluttered before, I guarantee you have played it. Here is how it goes. You decide today is the day. You are motivated, you are ready, you pull everything out of the closet, you make piles all over the floor, and then you run out of energy. And now your home looks worse than when you started. So you scoop everything back up, put it roughly where it was, and tell yourself you will deal with it next weekend. Next weekend comes, you do the exact same thing. I did this for years, literally years. The same boxes, the same piles, the same paralysis. Nothing was actually leaving my home. I was just rearranging my clutter in slightly different configurations every few months. The reason this happens is usually one of 2 things. Either we try to organize before we purge, spending all our energy making neat piles of things we do not actually need, or we make a maybe pile, which is really just a postponed decision dressed up as progress. 2 rules completely changed this for me. Rule 1 is what I call purge first. Before I organize a single thing, I get rid of the excess. And the easiest place to start is duplicates. I went through my kitchen, and I am not exaggerating when I tell you I found 5 can openers. 5! I kept the best one, the rest went. I found 3 sets of measuring cups, 7 spatulas, and enough coffee mugs to stock a small diner. Duplicates create instant, satisfying progress because you can see the space opening up in real time. Rule 2 is the one-touch rule. Once I pick something up, I make a final decision before I put it down. It goes to one of 4 places. Back to its home if I am keeping it, the donation box, the trash, or a box designated for a specific person. That is it. No maybe pile, no I will think about it. One touch, one decision. It is harder than it sounds at first, but once it becomes a habit, it is the single most effective thing I have done. Mistake 3 is the one I wish someone had told me about years earlier, because this one is about safety. And I do not want to alarm you, but I do want to be honest with you, because I think you deserve that. A cluttered home is a hazardous home, especially for us. Falls are the leading cause of serious injury for adults over 65. And I am not talking about dramatic falls from ladders. I am talking about tripping over a stack of magazines on the floor at 2 in the morning on the way to the bathroom. I am talking about catching your foot on a loose throw rug by the front door. I am talking about electrical cords snaking across walkways that were easy to step over at 40 and are genuinely dangerous at 70. I had all of these things in my home. A back hallway so blocked I could barely get through it myself. Piles of fabric and paper that I now realize were serious fire hazards. Areas so poorly lit that I was navigating by memory more than by sight. Here is what I did. I started walking through my home like a safety inspector. My non-negotiable rule became this. Every main path in my home must have at least 3 feet of clear, unobstructed space. From my bedroom to my bathroom, from the bedroom to the kitchen, from every room to every exit. Those paths are sacred. Nothing lives on the floor in those zones. I secured every electrical cord along the baseboard. I either removed throw rugs or taped them down firmly with double-sided tape. I added night lights along the path to the bathroom. And I made sure every door and window in my home can be opened fully and easily. That last one matters more than people think. If there was ever an emergency, a fire, a medical situation, paramedics and firefighters need to get to you fast. Your belongings should never, ever stand in their way. That thought alone motivated me to clear my hallway in a single afternoon. Mistake 4. The just-in-case trap. Mistake 4 is one that I think is especially common for our generation, and I say that with real respect. Many of us grew up in households where you saved everything, where waste was shameful, where you kept the rubber bands off the broccoli and reused the bread bags and stored every glass jar because you might need it someday. That instinct comes from a real place. It is resourceful. It is practical. It served our parents and grandparents well through genuinely difficult times. But in today's world, in our homes right now, that same instinct has quietly become a trap. Because the just-in-case items are not just taking up physical space, they're taking up mental space. Every time I walked past the broken toaster I was going to fix, or the boxes of fabric I was going to use for a project, or the clothes that no longer fit my body or my life, I felt a small but real drain on my energy. Multiply that by 100 items across every room, and you understand why walking into your own home can feel exhausting. Here is the reality check that helped me most. For every just-in-case item, I ask myself one question. If I needed this tomorrow, could I get it for under $20 and in under 20 minutes? In almost every case, the answer was yes. A can opener, an extension cord, a set of measuring cups. The cost of replacing these things, if I ever truly needed them, is tiny. The cost of storing them for years, in space, in stress, in the visual noise they create, is much greater. For things I genuinely could not decide about, I used the 90-day box method. I packed the item in a box, sealed it, wrote the date on the outside, and stored it out of sight. If I did not open that box to retrieve something in 90 days, I donated the entire box without looking inside. Because if I had not needed it in 3 months, I did not need it. Quick pause here. If this video was resonating with you, if you were recognizing yourself in any of these mistakes, would you do me a small favor and hit the like button? It takes 1 second and it changes.
Mistake 5. Trying to do it all alone. My final mistake was one I made out of pride, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit how long it took me to recognize it. I insisted on doing all of this by myself. I hurt my back trying to lift a box that was too heavy for me. I nearly fell off a step stool reaching for something on a high shelf. I spent entire weekends making what felt like zero visible progress, completely alone with my memories and my decisions and my exhaustion. And then I would just stop, give up, close the door, not go back in there for weeks. Decluttering a lifetime of possessions is a massive undertaking, physically and emotionally. It is one of the most demanding things a person can ask of themselves. And somehow I had convinced myself that needing help was a sign of weakness, when the truth is the exact opposite. So I called my daughter. I want to be careful about how I describe this because it matters. I did not ask her to come over and tell me what to throw away. I did not give her permission to make decisions about my belongings. Her job was to do the heavy lifting, to keep me company, to hand me things and be a sounding board when I got stuck. And something unexpected happened. What I had been dreading for months became one of the most meaningful experiences we have shared in years. We talked about things. We laughed. We cried a little. She learned things about me she had never known. One thing I was very deliberate about. I did not pressure her to take anything. Her home is not my storage unit, and I had to keep reminding myself of that. I would say, I am letting this go and wanted to offer it to you first. But please, no obligation. That simple phrase kept things comfortable between us. For the bigger projects, the garage, a storage unit I had been paying for 6 years, I hired professional senior move managers. And I want to say something clearly about that decision. It was not a luxury. It was a safety measure. These are people who specialize in exactly this kind of work. They brought efficiency and physical strength and a calm, experienced presence that I could not have replicated on my own. I would not perform surgery on myself. Some jobs simply need a professional. Now, before I wrap up, I want to hear from you. And I mean that genuinely. This community is one of the most warm and thoughtful corners of YouTube, and your comments mean everything to me. So tell me in the comments right now, which of these 5 mistakes is the one you recognize most in yourself? Is it the guilt and grief of holding on to things that belonged to people you love? Is it the shuffle game? The just-in-case trap? Or have you been trying to do all of this alone? Drop it in the comments. You might be surprised to find that dozens of other people are holding on to the exact same things. And sometimes just knowing you are not alone is the thing that gives you the courage to take the next step. So, there they are. 5 mistakes, 5 fixes. Holding on to guilt and grief instead of honoring and releasing. Playing the shuffle game instead of purging first and using the one-touch rule. Ignoring the safety hazards hiding in plain sight. Falling into the just-in-case trap. And trying to do it all alone. I want to leave you with one thought that changed everything for me. Every single item I consider now, I ask it one question. Does this support the life I am living today, or is it holding me hostage to the past? That is it. That one question is the key to all of this. Because this process is not about creating a cold, empty, minimalist home. It is about creating a home that truly supports the person you are right now. A home that is safe, a home that is peaceful, a home that feels like yours again. Be patient with yourself. Work in short bursts.
Even 15 minutes a day is real progress.